Greetings and salutations, this is Imperator Vespasian and his trusty sidekick.
Hello.
Today we're having a look at the last of this actual army set, which is the Livonian Order Knights on horseback, which is kind of the main thing of the army, really, which is interesting we're doing it last, mainly because he chose which ones went in which order.
Well, you should have told me.
Well, I thought the Knights would be the most important part of the army.
You did, that's why I did the knights first.
They're Knights.
They're mounted knights.
Oh, okay. These are mounted knights from the Livonian Order. They are from the Deus Vult range of Fireforge. In fact, everything's Deus Vult for Fireforge, so there we go. And they're pretty cool. The horses are painted in horse colours, but the livery is white, symbolising purity, because the knights were pure. Not sure if the Livonian Order were all that pure, actually.
No, they definitely weren't that pure.
No, I mean, if you could get them away from a bottle of mead, maybe they'd say nice things, but, you know. Their armour is painted red, although it's had a lot of the red paint scratched off, because these guys were on campaign all the time. They never really get a day off, really. I feel sorry for them. And the horses, of course, have lots of mud splattered up the side, so they're quite dirty and messy. The three troops here are armed with lance, and the three at the back are armed with close combat weapons. Typically, your front rank would carry lances, and they would be used to charge with, and you would charge your lance forward and ride into the enemy. Now, the lances you get in the box are a little bit too long for normal lances. Lances weren't actually as long as you get in the box. However, in the Russian campaign they were. The lances had to be longer because they were fighting against Russians, and the Russians employed a much longer spear. The Russian spear was about 2 feet longer than a normal spear. So the cavalry couldn't get into the Russian spear. So you had to have a lance in order to get up to the Russian spearmen and stab away at them. So it's alright for that. I've given each one a pendant. I've used all three pendants you get in the box for the figures, just because the knights would have been very individualistic, and even though you all wear the same colours and everything, knights would probably have tried to customise their kit as much as possible to make themselves look different. The helmets were all different, and they just want to look cool. The defensive, or the close combat weapons are flails, mace and a long axe, all with very long handles so you can reach the enemy on the ground. The saddle was very high, so the knight could actually reach out of the saddle in order to hit someone and then pull himself back up with the saddle. If you can see the saddle on the figure, it's actually much lower than a real saddle used by the knights. The real saddle actually went all the way up to the small of the back. So it'd be like sitting in a chair with the sort of the saddle at your back. And this was so they could actually use the lance. So they could actually smash the lance in and not fall off the edge of the horse. Because normally if you tried to actually use a big long spear and ride into someone and stab him, then you're just going to slide off the back of your horse and you're going to look really stupid laid on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, any questions?
You said that in the Livonian Order you had to be a knight already to be a knight
Yes.
in the Livonian Army.
Yes.
Did they ever go against this?
No. No.
So all these people are experiencing other armies?
Yes. They would already... The Livonian Order is only 30 years old anyway. I think had it continued, they would have started ordaining their own knights, knighting people.
Because they had to, because they're losing.
Yeah, they would have to. Well, certainly after the Battle of Sula, they would have to have. They needed knights. They had like 4 knights left, so they would have had to have done that. As it was, that they didn't make it. So, and by the time they were accepted into the German Pointy Hat Order,
The Teutonic Order.
The Teutonic Order. As soon as they went into the Teutonic Order, then they would have received knights the way the Teutons did. So then they would have knighted their own troops, their own knights, but they would have done it through the Teutonic Order. So the Teutonic Order would have sort of okayed people to be made into knights. In other armies, a lot of armies would actually bring soldiers up through being sergeants, accept them into the order as your heavy infantry, and then they would become knights. And it took a long time. You had to be able to recite the Bible back and forth or forward in Latin. You had to know all the however many points of the chivalric code there were. I think at this time there were about 13 points of the chivalric code. I think there's 70 odd altogether. But a lot of them were invented by the French and they don't really count. Typically a knight believes that he is basically the best trained soldier on the planet. He's there to fight and only to fight. He shouldn't spend time doing other things particularly. He should only fight. But the reason he is there to fight is to provide protection for the peasants, for the feudal people who live under them. Because that is the duty of a knight. Because if he doesn't protect the farmer doesn't make the bread that you eat at your table. It's the same. Actually, it's the same as the Romans. Every Roman legionary had the same had the same basic outlook as a Crusader knight. Every Roman soldier is there to protect the civilians because the civilians provide the bread. This is the thing. And in any decent army, that is really what an army is. It's there simply to protect the people, the common people. Doesn't stop them from riding into a Russian village and hacking the peasants to death. Because of course they're not their peasants.
Maybe the Russian knights just fight better.
Yeah, it's probably one of the reasons the Livonians actually got along with quite a few of the pagan tribes, is because they needed them as allies, and so that the order was tiny and couldn't really rely on other troops. So they made alliances and therefore would protect the tribe, the civilians in the other tribes, because they relied on their bread. They relied on their cows and sheep and horses and pigs and whatever it is they eat, chickens. So there's probably a bit of logic to it, really, when you think about it. Although I wasn't there, so I can't really tell. And there's very little written about it. I've read everything there is about it, but there is very little actual information out there. Next question.
Did the Livonian Order give the knights their clothing?
Yes. Yeah, it was provided for by the church through donation. All holy orders you donated to. Livonians didn't have churches throughout Europe, so they had to rely on local people, usually local rich local people, local lords and things would actually donate to the Livonian Order, and through those donations I would assume the Livonians would provide security.
Well, yeah.
Well, just think about it, you're on the border of Russia and your own country is half Christian and half pagan. You have pagan towns next to Christian towns, you have pagans living in your Christian towns, and you have a lot of fighting going on because there's a lot of animosity going on. And of course you have a massive Russian army on your border, and at this point the Russian army is beginning to unite. So you're having to deal with a growing Russian identity on your border who is beginning to unite. The Russian city-states are beginning to ally to each other, and they can come over the border at any time and take your lands. So if you've got a local crusading bunch of knights, then it's quite handy having them there, and you want to support them. Because you can't exactly send a boat to Sweden and say, hi, can you send some troops to help? Or send a boat to Denmark and say, hi, we're in trouble. Because by the time the Swedish king or the Danish king or the German kings have actually arranged any sort of support, your castle's probably been burnt and your house is on fire. So, There you go. Do you know what the pendant's for on the end of the lance? You see it a lot in old paintings. Do you know what it's for?
No.
It's so you can hold. It's to give friction to the lance. If you try and aim a lance forwards or even upwards, the lance, you can't hold it straight.
The wind will push it up or down.
Yeah. So you put a pendant on, and that creates friction with the wind, which enables you to hold the lance level, because the wind is giving it lift. Because an actual lance doesn't have any lift, because it's like a bullet. So you have a bit of
It weighs
lift.
a lot.
Yeah. Also, it was fastened by tiny chains usually. Do you know why that would be?
Make a noise.
The lance made a noise anyway, but what would happen if you were in the middle of a melee and you jabbed your lance in and someone grabbed the cloth?
It would do a rip it off.
Yeah, so it would just tear the cloth off, and they couldn't pull your lance. And again, the lances were often coated in bear fat to prevent people grabbing them. And so as against the Russians, it isn't much of a problem because they use gloves. Next question?
That's it.
That's everything. Well, that was boring, isn't it?
You always say that.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, these are the guys. These are the actual knights themselves. They will fight on horseback. They are trained to fight on horseback and fight from the saddle. However, a lot of the fighting will actually be done on foot. And quite often you would do your cavalry charge. The whole idea of a cavalry charge is to be absolutely terrifying. These huge, massive horses charging towards you. And the pendants are going thwack, 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 thwack. So you've got this tacking sound as the cavalry charge, and the ground shaking, and the cavalry smash into you with their lances and knock 3 or 4 guys over in one go. And then they get right into you, and the knights behind start hitting you with big axes and flails and maces, and it's a real mess. And then the knights dismount, and the knights form a wall of shields, and then they walk forward, and each hit kills someone, and they just smash their way through your soldiers.
It's like Call of Duty, instant kill.
I don't know, I don't play Call of Duty.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, I do actually. Yeah, sorry, I do play Call of Duty. I forgot that was Call of Duty. Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's nothing like Call of Duty now.
I said instant kill.
Yeah, instant kill. The weapons that these knights carry will kill you. They are designed to kill. They are not designed to do anything other than end your life. So when you're fighting, normally you could break your arm. You could have your arm broken if you wear an armour. You could have your fingers cut off. You could have anything. Whereas the heavy weapons that knights carry are actually designed to just break your entire body. A mace would just shatter not just the bone it hit, but it would shatter your whole arm, it would shatter your skull, it would break your helmet. And yeah, it's pretty cool. The armour they're wearing is absolutely awesome. I have one of these helmets, and the helmet is, if you wore that in battle, you'd probably feel pretty confident. Because there's no way anyone...
Your neck might ache.
Yeah, your neck might ache. It really does hurt your head.
Might get a little bit headache.
You don't want to turn too quickly.
Here.
If we do this...
Want to adjust the camera?
Oh, I'll just pan it back, that's okay. Right, this is... Just, oh, try and get the camera level for you. This is a helmet. There she is. This is a helmet used in the Crusades, or the time of the Crusades. It's not as showy as later helmets you might find. It's actually pretty simple in design. It's basically solid steel, and the top part, I think I mentioned this, we did a video on this before, didn't we?
Yeah.
The top part is actually padded, so the head comes up to here, and then you've got padding inside, which it completely fits your face and it doesn't move. And this top bit here is designed so if you hit with a mace, the mace actually won't damage you, because the mace will just sink into the helmet that's all padded here. There's a big gap, and won't do any damage. You usually have something like balsa or something inside there, really, really fine wood, and it would just take the impact of the mace, and it's pretty awesome. So knights were really, really well armoured, and if you look at the people they were fighting against, the knights were the most armoured people on the planet at the time. And I'll just readjust the camera back in here. So that is the Livonian Knights. That is the Livonian army ready to play. We haven't played it yet, but it is ready to play now. And we're going to be doing another army next.
Yeah, you will be.
Yeah. What army will we be doing next? Russians. That's going to be fun. Alexander Nevsky himself.
Indeed.
Yes, one of the coolest Russians ever to have lived. Yeah. Although Russians have got Putin at the moment, which is a bit like Alexander Nevsky. Although no, actually, because Putin positioned himself for power, whereas Nevsky sort of fell into it. Sort of accidentally became king.
Sounds like he's Vespasian.
Yeah, it was actually his brother who was supposed to be king, and he ended up being king. He wasn't really planning on it, but that's a long story.
Sounds like Sweden.
Yes, exactly. No, well, it's the same as Vladimir. Yes, in Sweden, King Vladimir, who usurped the throne while the proper king was on crusade. Yes, one of the few times. Well, not one of the few times. One of the many times that the Crusaders ended up invading a Crusader kingdom.
This is different though. They invaded their own country.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually true. The Crusaders did at one point invade Byzantium. And they cut the emperor's eyes out. Because there was this very little known law that you couldn't be emperor of the Byzantine Empire if you were blind.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but the guy actually fought. He actually fought battles. He was blind, and he fought on a horse with armour and a mace. And he was blind as a bat.
Well, I guess blind people get used to it and start to get used to what's what and what can feel is...
You don't see many blind people riding across the battlefield with a battle axe.
No, nowadays, no, because
back then, obviously, you did.
Blind people normally have hospital people chasing them down all the time.
Yeah, giving them white sticks and things. It's unbelievably patronising.
Put black glasses on.
Yeah, it is patronising. The concept of disability is a new concept. It's a Victorian concept. There's no such thing as disability before. You were just different. You just had...
Well, so if I cut your legs off, it won't be a disability?
No, obviously it's a disability. You've got no legs. But if you look through graves of soldiers, soldiers would have missing limbs, missing arms. There's two soldiers who fought in the War of the Roses, and they've got a bone disorder, and their arms. One guy had his arm completely fused together, so he couldn't move his arm, and yet he still fought in the War of the Roses. And there was another guy with his leg completely fused, so he couldn't move it. And he had loads of battle scars that had healed. And this guy was a professional soldier. So the idea, Ivar the Boneless, a Viking king who had brittle bone disease, and he was a dwarf. He had to be carried into battle on a shield.
Yeah.
His men would carry him on a shield into battle, and he'd just like whack people with a huge axe. So the idea of disabilities holding you back is, well, grow up. Get off your backside and do something about it.
They do, they go to hospital.
No, but a lot of people with disabilities actually claim it, like your mother. She's deaf, it doesn't bother her, she does everything, and she doesn't hold it back, she doesn't claim benefits for it.
Now she has hearing aids, she still ignores us.
Yeah, she still can't hear us properly, can she? But
no, she can't hear us properly.
Yeah. But yeah, so just these things. I mean, she was deaf for years before she managed to get hearing back. She was lucky.
That's annoying now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's not easy for her.
You can't say anything without jumping out of skin.
I just realised we've gone over time. Right, so is there anything to add about these awesome figures?
No.
No? Yeah, so this is the end of the Livonian Order army. set. I don't, off the top of my head, think that there's anything we haven't really covered, and I don't think we have any new units to add to the army, so I think this is as it's going to stand for now. We may add a few later, and we'll keep you updated, and you are definitely going to see them in battle soon, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fighting the pesky Russians.
With great Alex, the sidekick, running the Livonian order.
Right, that's it. Thank you very much for watching this series. Back with the Russians soon. Let us know what you think of the figures. Let us know what you think of the videos. You know, are they remotely interesting, or are we just waffling on about junk, really? No?
No, they don't want to hurt our feelings yet.
No. So, that's it. Outro.
If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and comment down below what you think of the Livonian Order Knights and the Livonians overall. That's it from me.
And everything from him. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.
See ya.